Hey traders, TG Watkins here. It is January 13th, Thursday. Hope everybody's having a good time out there, which hopefully you guys are on the right side of the market. I know there's been a lot of chop lately, and even the market's kind of rolled over at the end of today. Now, I did see some of this coming. I've been very communicative to my subscribers, and today it totally worked out that way. Now, what I do want to show is this is my website, profitpilot.com, and this was the last blog post, newsletter post that I made, and talking about how the growth stocks, the small caps are totally out of favor right now, and strength seems to be in not tech, so tech's getting hit too. So strength has been in basically industrials, financials, banks, metals, minerals, those things. Very, very defensive stocks. And one thing I did come down here, if you look at this, I was talking about the UVXY. And you can see here that what I was showing is on the 15-minute time frame where the UVXY, when it breaks down and stays below the 15-minute 50, we can be, that means that we can be long on the market. The S&P, that means the S&P is going to go long. And this is what I love about the market. Things can change from one day to another. And so where we left off yesterday, which was Wednesday, we see here that price was flagging into the 15-minute 50, and what I wanted to see was price continue to get rejected by the 15-minute 50. It looked like that was feasible because the Moxie indicator like this was below zero, and we were seeing price kind of go into the 15. I want to see it go down. I want to see price go into the 15 and go down. And at the bottom of this newsletter, I was saying, hey, as long as the UVXY continues to stay underneath the 15-minute 50 and go down, we can be okay with the market going up and we'll see some strength. Well, here we go, coming into the markets. Now, this is the S&P, and we kind of zoom out here, and what we've been seeing is today was very decisive, right? So with the S&P, we're right here with it sitting on the 15-minute 50, and we're kind of, we're wondering, hey, is this going to kind of crawl up a little bit further, or is this going to be a problem? And we could see that it did in fact break down below the 15-minute 50. Now, those of you who've been hearing from me for a while, you'll understand I talk about the inverse trampoline move, which is this. When price is over the 50, whatever time frame we're talking about, and the Moxie indicator is below zero. So price over the 50, the Moxie indicator below zero, that's an inverse trampoline move, and it started to kick in today on the downside. Now let me show you the UVXY, because this is something that we have been watching. And so based on that newsletter that I wrote just yesterday, I said, we can be bullish on the market as long as the UVXY is below zero. But then we woke up this morning, and you know what started to happen? The UVXY did not go down. It started to go up and push through the 15-minute 50, and I started talking to my subscribers about this, saying, "Hey, we better watch out. We got some issues coming on here. If the market was going to be strong, we should not be seeing the UVXY go up like this. We should not be seeing the UVXY push up through the 15-minute 50. It should have been down here. It should have been trending down, but it wasn't. So this was the sign and the warning that we saw early this morning. The other thing that I saw this morning, let me get this moved around. Well, here we go. The other thing that I saw today with the UVXY was that if the UVXY was going to go down, I wanted to see this red Moxie, those 2 days of red Moxie, I wanted to see it continue to be red and go down like that. That would have been fine. But even this morning, since price started going up, the Moxie indicator was green today and actually started to move up like this. And I was in the options room, I was in my subscription, I was talking to a bunch of people, and I said, this is going to be a problem. That thing should not be green. It should be red if we're going to be bullish on the market. And so I was giving everybody a warning today, saying we're seeing some problems here with the market. And lo and behold, the S&P rolled over, the NASDAQ started to roll over, even the semis. And I'll get into the semis as well, because they were looking pretty good today. TSM had earnings. Taiwan Semiconductors had earnings, and they popped, looked good, and they actually did hold up fairly well. AMAT popped up too. The SMH, the SOXX, the ETF popped up, but then it all got sold into. So we'll go into that as well. Now with the NASDAQ, what was pretty clear here was that price ran right into the underside of the daily 21. If you guys know my patterns, you know that leg, heel, arch of the foot, which means we're going to have price come back down to at least retest the lows. Now, this is where it gets interesting. There could be, and this is the stock market, so it's always a little interesting, kind of like reading the tea leaves. There could be a possibility that this actually turns into some sort of inverse head and shoulders for now. Definitely can't confirm it. Tomorrow we might open with a gap down. Don't know. But that's a possibility. Now, unfortunately, if this does bounce up, I'm not so sure that it's really going to last. So it could bounce up like this and then roll over a little bit later. At this point, it's pretty tough to really call what's happening. But at least with my guidance on the UVXY and the S&P and the NASDAQ, this one was fairly clear that price was going to fall below the 15-minute 50. And on the hourly chart here, you could see that the price was over the hourly 50 with the Moxie indicator below 0. And then with that resistance here at the daily 21, it was just a lot of resistance and an inverse trampoline move on that hourly chart. Now, if we come over here to the IWM, we're seeing a lot of weakness here, mostly because if we look at this, we've seen that price got rejected by the underside of the daily 50, Moxie indicator very much below 0, and then price got rejected by the underside of the hourly 50, Moxie indicator below 0, and it was definitely not holding the 15-minute 50 anywhere. So the real question is this going to break this low? I imagine it would. I think it's probably just a matter of time. But is there going to be some sort of trick to where maybe it bounces a little bit and then rolls over? That's a possibility, because I've been trying to short a few things, and I'll short it right here, or it'll break lower like that, and I'll short it here, and then they'll bounce. So just based on what I've been seeing out there, when you think something's going to go short, it might bounce. So short the bounces, and then you'll be in a better position if you're going to be going that direction. So that's kind of what we've been seeing there. Let's talk about the semis. So SOXX. Actually, let me come over here, because this I like to look at the weekly and the daily and the hourly for when there's not a whole lot of momentum going on. So in through here, at least as far as the semi ETF, well, we are still over the weekly 21. So I'm still kind of holding on to the idea of some strength in here. It would be unfortunate to think that, for all this chop that we had up through here and it finally popped up, that this was going to be a false move up and it's going to roll over like that. But you know what? We've seen that with the IWM. Let me switch over here real quick and just show you, because, the IWM did that exact thing. You see this? Let me zoom out. Yeah, you guys remember that. Remember, we had this nice move up here, and nope, that's a fake. So we went up and came right back down and turned into a bearish pattern. So I'm really hoping that that's not what's going on here with the semis, because, we got to find some places that are still bullish. But yeah, the fact that it's still hanging up here for now, it's very, very close to being able to call this, but for now it's still bullish. We still have the 8 over the 21, and price is still over the weekly 21. But it's getting tough to really hold through this kind of thing. And for now, this is a trampoline move on the daily chart, but the hourly chart's looking pretty rough. This was an inverse trampoline move here on the hourly. So, but it's also just mostly chop. I mean, this thing's just been going sideways. So maybe that'll be okay. Maybe we'll hold a level here. We don't know. This thing's just real tough to be looking at and trying to figure out what's going on with it. Now, on the other side of things, we've seen the dollar move down quite a bit. So usually that's good for the market, and usually that's good for precious metals. Right now, the market does not care about it, so whatever. But I've been talking about price coming down to the daily 50 at least, which it's done, and then we could see that it was likely to go further, because right here price was getting rejected by the underside of a downtrending hourly 200, and the Moxie indicator was below 0, so that was an inverse trampoline move. And then you could see the exact moment right there that price got rejected by the underside of the hourly 50, and that is what sent price down. So little details like that. Sometimes you get a couple days to see ahead of it coming, and then you'll get that one moment where it just tests the moving average exactly, and then it goes the other way. So some of the areas that have been working out, we've seen a lot. Well, banks. Let's talk about KRE. Yeah, banks, financials, XLF, that kind of stuff. And these been doing pretty well. Interest rates are going to be going up, so generally banks are happy about that, so that's why they're going up. Now, this is not necessarily the greatest place to enter. It's fairly extended. It's kind of getting up there around those third ATRs. It has not touched the hourly 50 in quite some time, and it's pretty extended here on the daily chart. So it would be wonderful, kind of like here to here, if we get some sort of pullback. That's what I would be watching for. On the weekly chart, maybe a pullback to the weekly 8, something like that. Look for a pullback. And a lot of things are kind of moving on their own. So we got the banks doing this. Look for a pullback. They seem like they should be strong on that pullback, but we got to wait for that to happen. And then XME is another area that we are seeing some strength. It's definitely trying. It's definitely trying. And what we can see here on the weekly chart is, look at this. I think this was April or May that price topped out up here, and it has just been going sideways. We've seen that for a lot of these sectors, is that they've just been trending sideways for a very long time. So we've seen small caps dwindling ever since February, March, April, and then we've seen other things like this just going sideways since then. The small caps obviously have been imploding, but things like this are holding up, and we're starting to see there's a regular trampoline move on the weekly chart. We can see triple bottom and then positive divergence on the Moxie indicator. And then we can see that the Moxie indicator has fired here. And then even on the hourly, we can see that there was a trampoline move here just, 2 days ago, something like that. So we're going to have to see how this thing wants to kind of move back and forth, and if it really can actually break out. Now, it might need to do a little down and then up. It's hard to tell. Or it can kind of keep chugging along to the upside. But something like this, if this is going to be a strong area, then dips should be buyable. So let's see, XLF, and then, we keep talking about gold, precious metals, trying to see if these things are going to work. Now, I think I've been talking about gold for a while, in the fact that, let me kind of get that narrowed down, on the weekly chart, all these things, we got a lot of transition going on, right? Look how long gold has basically been going sideways. But this is now starting to consolidate in this area. Notice that we have the weekly 8 over the 21, and notice that both of those moving averages are over the weekly 50. So that's good. The other thing that I've been noticing and calling attention to is that here on the daily chart, we've had price dip below the daily 50 a few times, but notice that the Moxie indicator has been staying above 0. So this is looking pretty good. This is a trampoline move on the daily chart. It looks to be holding pretty darn well, and so I am bullish generally. Gold miners, silver, things related to precious metals. They're taking their time, but it seems to me like they're starting to work to the upside. So until that changes, until this proves me wrong, I am bullish on the precious metals. And what we can also see is right in through here, the daily 50 has crossed over the daily 200, and it continues to be that way. And I'd like to see that continue. I want to see the 50 stay over the 200, just like we see here on the hourly chart. The hourly 50 is over the 200, and we can see that it's maintaining that situation, and the Moxie indicator is up and moving again. Other areas, obviously, oil, XOP, is an area, and through here we've been seeing, let me kind of get that compressed down here, and I'll show you these patterns that I just absolutely love and work out like a beauty. I wasn't really noticing in the banks when I was looking earlier, but in oil, totally worked out. Notice here, bouncing off the weekly 50s, great. Now here's my favorite pattern. Here's the elf shoe. Here's the leg, here's the heel, here's the arch of the foot, there's the ball of the foot, there's the elf toe. So that worked out nicely. And then on the hourly chart, trampoline move, right? Here's price below the 50, Moxie indicator above 0. We went in right here, and that's been working out pretty nicely. So up through there, you can see it's been bouncing off the hourly 50. Now, this might take a little bit of time to work out. It's still going to chop around a little bit. It's dealing with its previous high up here. And we also have to see if price is going to want to maybe come down to the daily 50, because eventually it's got to get the daily 50 engaged with this. Let me show you what I'm talking about. So if you look here, previously, you could see that, yes, price got over the daily 50, but then what? Came back down to test the daily 50. So just be prepared that that might happen. And if it does, if it's buyable, then you can add more to it. With that, CVX, there are just a ton of oil stocks that have been looking good, doing well, and we've been seeing that. Here's price there's a trampoline move on the daily 50, and then here on the hourly chart basically bounced off of the hourly 50 with the Moxie indicator above zero. I mean, these are picture perfect setups, which is why we are playing the oil sector and looking really, really good there. Now, as of right now, kind of like banks, do you want to go in right there? I think that's a little high. It's a little bit up there. I know that before, when these things get on a tear, you know, they can get a little bit overbought, but then they come back down to these moving averages. Well, you can see this is a little overbought, and it is kind of far away from that moving average. So don't be surprised if there's a pullback, and hopefully these pullbacks are buyable. And that's what I would be looking at. You know, look for price to come back down to these moving averages, something like that and like that. And then they should be good. But yeah, CVX, COP, ConocoPhillips, I mean, these things have been doing really, really well, very well. And you can see in through here, it bounced off the weekly 21, and then here you can see it bounced off the hourly 50 with the Moxie indicator above zero, and boom, that was the move. So as I said, probably not a great place to be entering new up here, but dips should be buyable, and we'll see what we can do to be getting into those kind of things. Speaking of oil, let's go talk about an electric car. So Lucid, I know I've had a lot of traders in our area talk about this, and yes, there was a move, but so far I have been proven correct that it wasn't quite ready for a major swing trade. This was what I call kind of the first move. I also cautioned that there was going to be a pullback. So the first things first, what I was noticing is when price did come down here, that was basically a trampoline move. For all intents and purposes, it dipped down, but the Moxie indicator was right at zero and wanted to go up. I think I had talked about this before, where price was running into resistance right there on the daily chart and had not actually tested the hourly 50 right there, and so we got that big dip. And then it came up. Okay, so we've got a move like this. Well, my concern was that there was this distance between price and the hourly 50 just as the hourly 50 was crossing over the 200. A lot of times what I see is it's going to take some time to get that 50 to cross over the 200, and price is going to have to do some chopping around until it can finally go like this. I think USO or XOP was kind of something that I was noticing like that. It's just kind of a similar pattern. But let me show you, here's my example if you want to look at a previous one. If we come in through here, notice here's the 50 crossing over the 200, and yes, there was a move, but what eventually happened? It pulled back into an uptrending hourly 200, and it finally caught some support there and then went. So that's kind of what I'm looking at and saying, yeah, I wasn't surprised that there is a pullback, because if you look at the hourly 200, it's still in a downtrend, right? It's going to take some time before this thing starts to turn up and go that way. So I'm being very, very careful and cautious in this market. It's treacherous. Some things are working, some things are not. Here's another one that seems to be working for now. GT, Goodyear tires, right? Very industrial. They've been around forever. I think the name of the game is, well, what can handle inflationary periods? What can handle possibly a recession? What can handle a market downturn? And they're going to names that basically they feel won't go belly up on them. The bigger money is looking for places to hide out and have safety. Goodyear, how long have they been in business? 100 years? Yeah, they're probably going to do just fine. So it seems like a pretty good, reasonable place to put some money because, well, they're doing well, aren't they? They're not going to go away if things with the economy kind of falter just a bit. They've been through worse. They're going to do just fine. But you can see here, price holding the daily 50, price holding basically the daily 50, maybe you can call it the weekly 50 and the weekly 21. And then in through here, you can see just now tapping the daily 50, the 8 over the 21. And then you know what? My beloved pattern right here, the trampoline move on the hourly chart. Now this actually, now that I'm looking at it, this looks a lot like that Lucid chart that I was just talking about, right? Notice the 50 was crossing over the 200 right there, and there was a move. But then what did it do? It pulled back. And what did it pull back into? An uptrending hourly 200 with the Moxie indicator above zero. So if Lucid is going to go higher, this is basically what I'd be looking for. So keep an eye out for that. There's no guarantees that Lucid's going to work because Lucid is still an untested company. They probably have a lot of debt to service their R&D and get the company up and running. So they are probably a risky, well, they are a riskier company because they aren't selling any products yet. They still don't have their first car out. I know it's been driven and tested, we've seen it, but they are not making sales. Tesla's doing better in that regard, so they're more of a staple company. So flight to safety flight to come to companies that are here to stay and can be trusted and make money, and they're not going to go anyplace. So look for that kind of stuff. And then I know maybe you'd say like, well, Microsoft has been around for a while. Sure, you know what? Microsoft probably not going to fall apart either. But the only issue with Microsoft is that they are tech, so they're suffering from that area. And also just look how steep this thing is. Look at the weekly chart. Look how high price is above the moving averages. Look how high it is at that third ATR. It just was super, super high. The generals, the things that have been leading the way are starting to get hit. Interest rates are going up and money needs to be rotating around a bit. And so they're trying to find value stocks. Sure, Microsoft probably not going to implode or anything, but now is just not the right time to be investing in something like this, even though they're going to be around with us probably 100 years from now. So go find new, fresh sources of growth in value stocks, I think, and that's kind of what we need to be looking at. All right, so once again, come over here, check out profitpilot.com if you guys want. And also, if you want to get the Moxie indicator on StockCharts.com, go look at their website. We've got links in the description, all that kind of stuff. Love that you guys tune in. And yeah, if you have any questions, let me know and we'll be answering you. Thanks again. Take care.
Hey guys, Dave Keller here with StockCharts.com. Thanks so much for watching our video. If you enjoyed it, and we hope you did, hit the like button right below. Also, we have so much new content every day. Consider subscribing to the channel. Just hit the subscribe button in the video or right below. Thanks for watching. Stay safe. Have a fantastic day.